Good afternoon, team. Sadly, I am alone. Robin had to has to do fatherly duties, so today I'm talking to Charlie Sproson by myself. Um, I was going to talk to Robin about so much been happening over the last week, 10 days with the controversy of UTS, and although we did touch on that last week, and of course this week's news from Ourea Events. It's a really sad thing, obviously, to happen in the UK. For they hold so many iconic events, deeply frustrating and annoying for those runners who are due to toe the line at the Northern Traverse in 2 weeks' time. Obviously, I can't comment on the details. I don't know, and I'm sure it's incredibly hard for all concerned. What I will say is I do think it's damaged the relationship between runners and race directors. I think COVID really hammered everyone on both sides of the coin. Runners, many runners lost out there with races being cancelled at short notice. I do know of many races that did repay runners from their own pockets. So there are some amazing events out there that will pull out money from their own pocket. But I think that confidence has knocked back runners, and that is a reason why runners are generally entering races later, which makes life very difficult for race directors because, of course, they have costs to meet well in advance of the event. So it's a really tricky cycle, and there's no short answers for it. And I hope these things will be resolved over time. If you've got anything to say about it, let me know. And I will just quickly say thank you again to Swiss Canyon Trail Ultra for sponsoring this podcast. I'm really excited to be going out there. It's only a couple of months away now. It's an amazing looking race, something you can do over a long weekend. Come and join me, come and be a friendly English face on this spectacular course. But without further ado, I shall admit Charlie to the room. He's in the green room waiting.
Am I on now?
Hello. Yes, you are. Yeah.
Oh. I was just about to blow
Sorry. Well, that's a very dramatic backdrop you've got there. I feel ashamed to my curtains.
I didn't have time to change it. Are we recording live now, or can I blow my nose?
We are.
I'm gonna blow my nose anyway.
Go for it. We're very relaxed. We're 100% relaxed here.
Otherwise, I'm actually going to sniffing away.
Turn you up. No, that's cool. I've got my tea. I hope you've got a cup of tea as well.
I've got a cup of tea, yeah.
Excellent.
Need pints of tea. You can't see
wow.
Silly thing.
It's a bit, yes. Oh, yeah.
Do you want me to
That is a pint of tea. Oh, no, it's fine.
It's all right.
That's fine. So, how are you?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah. I've introduced you, but purely as Charlie Sproson, but
good. That's me.
But I should also say that you are the race director of Lake District Sky Trails.
Yep.
Director of Mountain Run.
Yep.
And obviously I'm not quite sure sort of what the crossover is. So Mike Jones is now the director of Skyrunning, but you used to do that, didn't you? And several of your races are part of the Skyrunning series. So why don't you give us a little brief history of Skyrunning and how you got into that? Because that's always been a particular interest of mine.
God, yeah, Skyrunning. So, I was working on Ourea Events stuff. It to be back in 2014. We were doing an event called Berghouse Trail Chase over in the North Yorkshire Moors. Ian Corliss was the photographer at the time, and he was sifting through these photographs that he'd just been out in Italy taking, talking about a guy called Killian and telling us about these things called sky races, which I had no clue about, didn't really. I'd heard once from Graham Patton, Lakeland Trails, had talked about sky running, and I went, oh yeah, I know what that is, and not having a clue what it was. And Ian said, well, you do this type of stuff, don't you, Charlie? You and Steve Ashworth are doing this in the lakes. And I said, oh, I don't know, but you have to explain. So he explained what it was, and it was a combination of running and climbing. And the photos that he had were of Trophy Akima, which is the sort of, I guess, the pinnacle of sky running in Europe, set up by Mourinho Guicometti, who is the forefather of skyrunning, or the father, I guess, of skyrunning, who developed it and his own personal thing to run to the top of Monte Rosa and back down again from Alagna, a ski resort, sort of mountain area in Italy, North Italy. And he sort of unveiled this idea that these people were running and climbing and dropping down chains. And I thought, wow, yeah, I do this. So we were running and combining climbs together in the lakes and sort of enchainment and things like that. And the more I got into the idea of what he was saying and looking at the pictures, I thought, cry, I want to do this. This looks brilliant. I can't believe people race it. This is amazing. And then the opportunity came the following year, alongside Glencoe Skyline starting. We also started in the lakes, Lake Sky Ultra, got the opportunity to plan a race. My dog died that year, unfortunately, so I had a dog who had done the Bob Graham round with me, so the 42 summits in the lakes, 24 hours, blah, blah, blah. And so I sort of asked Ian if I could plan a race, and I would do it as an ode to my dog and the fact that I couldn't get to Trophy Akima that year, which I'd been gifted an entry place, and so that was sort of my chance to go and run one of the iconic sky races in Europe that I didn't really understand fully. And didn't go on that because my dog died that week, and so got the chance to plan this race.
Okay.
I mean, it's a sad story, but out of it came a brilliant thing. You know, it's a silver lining. Yeah, and so I got on and planned what I thought Trophy Akima could look like in the lakes, and came out with this idea called Lake Sky Ultra, which was a 50k, I think roughly 50k, 52k, 3,800 meters, 4,000 meters, something like that. And we put Pinnacle Ridge in the first half of it, so it did Striding Edge, Swirl Edge, Pinnacle Ridge, which is, I guess, the Lake District's classic scramble. If you want to do a scramble in the lakes, Pinnacle Ridge is the one you want to come and do in Grisdale Valley, and it's quite alpine feeling as well. And that was the birth for me of sky running in the lakes. And those two events were on the back of Ian Corliss's sky running series. That Mike, as you said, now Mike Jones is the sort of the director of that, which is an overarching series that looks after the sky races in the UK. And there was the V3K was existing down in Wales, which is now relivened by Mike as the 14 Peaks. There was the Lakes 3000, high terrain events put that on, and that was a 80k, 4,000 meter, and it took in Helvellyn, Scarfell, and Skiddaw, but it wasn't quite that sort of extreme sky running terrain. So we sort of came out with this, and I guess that's where we started.
Are there some requirements that you have to add to the race to make it a sky race?
It was laughed at by the Europeans that the British, sorry, kicking my stool, the British were going to do sky racing because they said, well, you don't have the high mountains, and their requirement is that you should be over 2,000 metres, and it's where the mountains meet the sky. That's sort of the loose way that things work. I'm sorry, my dogs are about to start fighting. I'll stop them. And so they said, well, you haven't got those high mountains. And so what we did, and this was Shane and myself, we both came out with these concepts of having quite extreme races where we would combine climbing with it, which was the top end of sky running, where these pinnacle races like Trophy Akima would have climbs involved, sort of, I don't know, graded scrambles up to about grade 2, British grade 2, grade 3 maximum. And so we took that top end of it because we couldn't produce these alpine type routes. Yeah. And it turns out that ours would be some of the most extreme in the world, which was pretty cool at the time.
Okay.
And stop the Europeans laughing at us as well.
Yeah.
Which was quite nice.
Yeah. Yes, that's always a good outcome. What does it? I did Scarfell Sky Race ages ago. Yeah. I imagine that's probably the one of the tamest. Certainly, back then it was 2019, I think. But I mean, when I see these amazing pictures, going over over the pinnacle, or you sort of think, well, how does the field travel through it, because it looks like you have to go one by one.
Yeah.
Certainly over places where there are ropes and chains and what have you. Does that naturally hang on, sorry, my doorbell's going. Baz! Does the field is this field naturally strung out by then? Or, I mean, it's not a queue like at the bottom of where there's a rope section.
Oh, we've tried. I mean, in the first year that I did it with Lake Sky Ultra, I think that the climbing section was probably 20k into the race, so that it had evened everything out. And like you're saying, it had strung people out, and we didn't really have a queue going on. In some of the other ones that have been put on in the UK, the climbs have been quite close to the start initially, and there were backlogs of people, so those races were adjusted as such. But generally you try and have that more extreme terrain further on in the race, so it does eke everything out, so people aren't queuing. If people are queuing, it's not like they're waiting for ages. They're just waiting in that patient line until access to go and do it. And yeah, we want people to go over it one by one. There's no jostling allowed on any of the sort of the extreme sides of it. But you noted Scafell Sky Race as being one of the easier ones. It sort of is, apart from the terrain underfoot is mega hard. You appreciate going around cable and things like that. It's very difficult to try and run across that, even in good weather. So in bad weather, it sort of makes it even, it's like moraine fields, alpine type moraine fields.
In fact, we had to put out the bad weather route halfway round that year. I ruined a pair of over trousers on the rocks, shredded them. No, it was fun, but I remember some safety guy being on some little scramble somewhere was there to sort of grab your pack as you sort of scrambled your way up. And I do remember thinking, well, okay, this is kind of scary if someone's there to sort of catch me and actually holding on to me. I mean, it was great. It was really exciting. I think it was a really fabulous introduction to mountain running, actually, for me. Highly recommend it to anyone else. So what other events do you have? You've got the Helvellyn Ultra now, haven't you?
Yeah, so I've got 2 weekends that I run as Skyrunning weekends. So that's the Scafell Sky Running weekend that has Scafell Sky Race, the Scafell Sky Ultra. We have a shorter 21k trail race, and I use the word trail race loosely because it's very much like a fell race mix of a sky race as such. So we're still trying to find that techie, extremer ground to throw people over, to give them an introduction. So it's like a feeder into the idea of how to get sky running, because as we've seen the market open up over the last 10 years that we've been running these things, we found that the people aren't necessarily ready to do something like Scafell Sky Race or the Ultra. And then we have an uphill race as well, which are difficult. We can't get vertical Ks in England. You can in Wales and you can in Scotland. We can't get one in England unless we dig 15 metres down in Wasdale, and then we'll be able to have 1,000 metres going.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, 16 metres to be exact. So we can't do that, obviously. So we have a vertical race on a Friday night that allows people to experience that like blast of straight uphill, and you finish on the top, which is really unlike for UK people. They're not used to it. And then we have the Helvellyn Skyrunning weekend that has 5 races, so 5 different distances, an uphill on the Friday night, going up Ourea Ledge, which ticks that sort of technical terrain. Then we have 4 distances, 3 being sky races on the Saturday, and 1 being a trail race that again has 680 metres of ascent in it. So they're not easy pushover races, but that we can feed people into those harder and more technical races.
How do you deal with the general public that are out in force on these popular places as well?
Over the years, as things have got busier on, like example, Helvellyn, we can't do anything about Scafell. Scafell will always be majorly busy. It doesn't really matter in June, what time of day you go up Scafell, there's going to be people there because the Three Peaks Challenge is going on and things like that. So we've got used to that, and we like the feel of the runners going through, the tourists coming up from Wasdale, and that gives the runners a good feel, and they get cheered on a bit and makes it maybe a little bit different to the usual UK scene. It's a bit more European feel because the Europeans will come out en masse.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a different weather system. We've got different mountains, so we have a slightly different scene. And then across Helvellyn, striding as Ourea Ledge, when I first started doing it, they're busy-ish, but they weren't particularly busy. I think Julia Bradbury, I can't remember what year, put on that it was the best walk in the UK to go and do the edges. Could have been 217, 218, something like that. And that was on actually a February weekend, so it went from 20 people being on the edges to 200 the following weekend. It's great for people. It was a little bit testy at the time, and the Mountain Rescue definitely had the time. But we then learned to bring our course into the right location so that we would have people going across early morning across the edges rather than doing it in the middle of the morning or late afternoon where we would get, fouled up with people. And the mountains are there for everybody to use. It's not that we as race organisers should take over and everybody needs to clear out the way. Our participants are advised that people will be there, that we all, have that experience, that they're no better than anybody else, and so we all just got to learn to help each other and run past and smile and say hello, and that's the attitude that we're trying to create, which I think is the right.
I think, personally, as I've slowed down and got older as a runner, I prefer the more technical stuff because it kind of levels out the playing field a little bit, because no one can go that fast
over the techie ground.
And in fact, the controversy over UTS makes me smile, because I DNF'd it halfway through at Capel Curig, but I did the 100k 3 years ago. I shouldn't have started it. I had damage to my knee, but I'd entered the previous year because that's what you have to do. And I thought, well, actually it's so technical to begin with, I'll just crack on and see where I was. And my theory was right, that certainly up until I got just before Capel Curig, and you had that horrible out and back around the lake that was quite flat and runnable. Up until then I was in the thick of it. So I would definitely say to anyone who perhaps considered themselves a bit slower and maybe older, actually the technical stuff is brilliant. It's something that you can really test yourself on without needing to be young and fast and full of vigor.
I totally agree with you. It does level out the playing field, and the technical ground becomes really absorbing as well. So it's a totally different form of running. I think Damien Hall sort of described it quite well, that you are just completely and utterly absorbed in every footstep. There is nothing else there apart from each footstep, and which in some senses means you maybe miss some of the views, but actually you just get sucked in by it, and hours can go by until you realise, oh God, I'm getting close to the finish, and it's all done, and hopefully you've had a really good experience. I guess it depends on the person and the weather and the day.
I think so. And and really in the UK, even not including sky races in particular, but the sort of really technical stuff is few and far between. We've got millions of trail races, but actually not many where you're taken in places that you've got to focus so much on what you're doing with your feet.
But to talk about that, we are Mourinho Guicometti, who is the head of the International Skyrunning Federation, who pretty much started all this off back in, I think, 88 was the time he ran to the summit of Monte Rosa and back down again as a test with his friends. I think I'm right in saying that. They note on their website that the Ben Nevis fell race, or hill race, I shouldn't call it fell race, the Scottish should have me for that. The Ben Nevis hill race, up and down to the summit and back down again, is what they note as the first sky race. And, that we have this history of very technical running, being our fell running in the Lake District. So places like Wasdale, Ennerdale, Duddon Valley, the Borrowdale fell race, they're all very much sky running routes. The picture in the background behind me is somebody on the front ground. the Bob Graham is an ultra long skyrunning route without a
I
doubt.
was going to say,
Charlie
because it has some
Rose, yeah.
scrambling and stuff, doesn't
Oh,
it?
very much so. Paddy Buckley is
Yeah.
very much an ultra distance sky race. So,
Mm.
we've got this amazing history of very technical running that a lot of people who coming from Europe back in the early days when I got into it, which is like, seems crazy saying early days, it's like 20 years ago, but they weren't really seeing that type of running. Trail races in Europe were trail races. And then there was this division of sky racing, which was the technical side of it. So we've got a great technical background, and very hard, sort of hardy background of running. I really like, and it should be sung about massively.
Yeah. You also have a company, Mountain Run, where you do coaching and whatnot. So are you seeing more people interested in doing these mountain events?
Yeah, massively. I mean, I've run Mountain Run since 2013. I think I started it up. And that was on the back end of my shop disappearing. So I've come from outdoor retail trade, grew up in a shop, very lucky to be in the Lake District. Coveted people who were putting races on, wanted to get involved in it. Shop went kaput for varying different reasons. And so sort of rejigged myself as this company called Mountain Run, hoping that we could take people guided around the Lake District. Got sucked into the race world, worked in the race world for a couple of years, and then sort of started to develop Mountain Run. And we've, over the years, coached runners in skills. I don't coach as in telling people how many miles they should run or what frequency they should run, things like that. But we give the skills to be able to go and do this hard technical running. And yeah, we do quite a bit of it. We do bits and pieces around skyrunning. We do a lot with poles. So you'll see the guy I can't see over my shoulder that way. He's using poles. We do a lot of training with poles, which again, when we started doing that back in 2014-ish, people didn't really understand the idea of what a pole was in the UK, apart from using a single pole for going mountain walking. And so we understood that, and we've developed courses around those. And yeah, we do quite a lot of training with people. And I do see it goes through fits and starts, depending. Navigation seems to be quite low at the moment, but is coming back again. So I think GPSs have sort of taken everybody by storm in the last 6-7 years. But people seem to be getting interested in navigation again. I think a lot of it's geared around what type of races there are. So you've noted like UTS, very technical race, but it's all marked. Our races, sky races, they're all marked. So you've not really the requirement to need to navigate. The scene that I came out of was a mountain marathon scene where they were 2-day navigational events where it was essential to have a map and compass and to be able to use them. GPSs weren't allowed. So, these things come and go and everything rolls around, doesn't it? And we see it.
So go on. Yeah. What's your view on a sort of a fully marked course? Because it certainly seems to be the Marmite of the trail running world.
Well, I mean, that depends on where you are in the country as to what the marking should be. If you're going over the top of mountains, we like to mark with pin flags, which some people can be really upset about and feel that they can be left behind. So we'll mark, we made stipulations. It was a group of us, Shane Oley, Gary Thompson, myself. I think it was actually the three of us who were developing the idea of marking courses for the sky races. Gary came out with this idea, and Gary's like a race creator who's worked for Rat Race and so on, created many races that people will have done, but they won't realise it's Gary's sort of work. And he said, look, there's these little surveyor pin flags, we can use these. And we made a rod for our own back, and we'll go out and mark the mountains every 25 metres in difficult technical sections so that people can follow without having to have any navigational ability. And then you'll move to, lower level trail races where they're being marked, but the markings are on footpath junctions rather than anything else. You might run for a mile, 2 miles without anything. We've got races like the Lakes 100, an absolute classic, UK race now. And Mark Laithwaite has always said he never wants to mark it, and he's not going to go to marking it. And they'll write a route book like the old LDMPA, long distance walkers events.
LDWA.
LDWA, that's the one, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll have a route card, and you'll read through the route card, and it systematically takes you through and tells you where to turn and so on and so on. So, it depends on the race that you're doing, and I think the locations that the races are in.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's funny, isn't it, with something like Lake 100, there's so many GPX files out there, with today's watches and GPX units. I can't imagine someone going out with a route card. turn left at the first stile.
Yeah. But when I was marshalling on that, I think that was like 2010. People were having problems. I mean, this was part of how Mountain Run was born. People were running over the top of Blacksell Pass, coming down into Ennerdale, and they would just be talking and run off down the valley and end up in the bottom of Ennerdale, wondering where they were. And we had phone calls at whatever time in the morning, 5 a.m, said, we don't know where we are. And so we developed navigation courses based around the Lakes 100 with Mark, alongside Mark, and ran those as Lake Street 100 events, that would help people learn. And then we started trying to splice people's watches together with it and use the technology as well, so that we wouldn't have these issues.
Yeah. I mean, there's a place for all the various ways to navigate, isn't there? And let's face it, runners are only going to use their watches, and the map will be a last resort when they're desperate. I certainly always shove it in the deepest part of my mandatory kit bag. If I need this, I'm really in the shit.
And you're finding that it's not necessarily mandatory on races now.
No.
Lots of the races that used to specify it as mandatory, it's not anymore because people weren't using them, and they are using the technology, and the technology's got so much better. So we must move. Do you think
recce's are important, or do you think that's a matter of preference?
I think they can be very important. I also think it can be a matter of preference. I'm an awkward one to ask that question. I recce'd the Spine in 2013 and realised I didn't like the route. I'd rather have done it on site, and that's something that I prefer to do. And most of the things I've done are on site, and I think that's the background I've come from with the mountain marathon stuff. However, I think route recce's are invaluable for many people. I think not just the idea of running it, but annotating your map and marking it up and giving yourself some knowledge of what you've gone through, because the memory is often subjective. So to write down, why you turned, where you turned, what was around that location, was there a stone or so on, which we did when we were running in the Spine for the 2014 version. Just wrote on our maps to, give ourselves knowledge, because we knew we'd forget. Sort of kid like yourself. And I think, recce's in fell racing have been, but I mean, that's time immemorial. You speak to lots of the old fell runners and they cannot navigate, but they know their way to run around the Lake District like the back of their hands. Yeah,
it's funny, isn't it? Yeah.
And I'm not knocking anybody or throwing mud at anybody. It's just different styles.
No, but it's funny. I was supporting on a Borrowdale fell race a few years ago, and the weather was awful. The clag was down. There was absolutely no visibility up on the tops at all. And I was just kept hearing stories of runners coming from all angles, completely lost. And you're like, hang on a minute, these people are supposed to know where they're going, and they're supposed to intimately know these areas. They're hopeless.
Well, there is. I mean, there's a really interesting article written by Dave Taylor down in the Peak District, who's fell running guide. I always love this one, and I definitely tell it on navigation courses, because it's something that I did for my Bob Graham back in 2006, where, it was a fell running champs race. I can't remember the year it was, and there's a Strava trace that comes off the top of Black Combe that everybody just disappears everywhere because the cloud was down at something like 300 meters. So as they all get to the top of the mountain, rather than having an annotation on the map and just a bearing that they can flip their compass to and follow the bearing, about 5 or 6 people got it bang on right, and of course they were the winners and so on, and the rest of the people just spray across the mountain going everywhere because they're relying on the memory. But then there's other stories of people like Joss Naylor and Billy Bland who would run races and know exactly where they were, and it didn't matter what the weather was doing, because they would know which stone to turn at and why, and exactly which valley they go down into. So I guess horses for courses, isn't it? Yeah.
I imagine recce's are probably invaluable to people who perhaps are on the weaker side of navigation, or don't want to navigate. It's a way for them to learn the course rather than do it on site.
Not many people can navigate at the speed required if you're winning a race. I think that's the way I would put it. So if you're in that top 5 or top 10 mix, and you're trying to push the boundaries of what you're doing, to try and navigate at that speed and beat your competition, very, very difficult. So I can totally understand why that's where the recce came from. But at the same time, recceing a route gives you much more than just knowing which direction you're going. It tells you what the terrain's doing underfoot, you know, what you're about to come across, where you should be pushing, where you shouldn't be pushing, where maybe you're going to eat some food and replenish your stocks, you know,
shelter,
water from, if it's a difficult course, you know, or difficult weather, where you can shelter. So there's a whole host of things with recce's, and it just gets you used to that terrain, doesn't it? And so I think it's based on the personality, I think, is how it should be looked at.
Yeah. No, interesting. Have you got any other races planned? Any new races, or are you continuing to develop your stable?
Well, yeah, I'm still continuing to develop what we're doing with Helvellyn and Scafell, so those will continue. I am also involved and have been since 2014 Keswick Mountain Festival. So whilst it's not my event, I've worked for all the owners of that in the last, what would it be, 12 years, 13 years now, through the different machinations of the guys who have owned it. And it's the trail races are designed by me, and any of the running stuff that goes on there is all my sort of concept and design. And then we deliver for them, but I'm contracted in to do that. So that's a massive weekend for me at the start of the year in mid-May. And then, there's always ideas to do something in autumn, but life seems to be very busy. So I have concepts and I have ideas. I haven't released them yet. Maybe next year. I'm supposed to release something this autumn, but I've not got around to doing it yet. So we'll see if it comes next year, or if all of a sudden it appears.
Yes. It's interesting. I'd love to know about how you create a race, you know, or a route rather. I mean, you must just have to go out there loads and trial it and test it, and whether it's in sections or in the whole. I mean, what are you looking for when you're putting together, especially something like Keswick Mountain Festival, which I imagine you need to open it up to quite a large variety of people?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been really lucky that I've fallen into things and found myself in the right place at the right time. So Keswick Mountain Festival, they had a brief of what they wanted. They wanted 4 races, one of a marathon distance, then we'd do a half marathon. Then we decided on a 10K and a 5K. There was a bit of sort of backwards and forwards chat about it as to how that would all work. And then it was just over to me to design some good courses. I was really lucky that I answered an email for the Saunders Lakeland Mountain Marathon in 2011 because they were looking for course planners. I thought everybody would be emailing about this and saying, we'd love to plan your courses. They actually picked me, and so I asked them and said, "Oh, that's brilliant. Why did you pick me?" And they said, "You were the only person who replied, Charlie." So,
really?
Yeah, apparently. So
that's crazy.
So I did that, and on that planning of those race courses, and they gave me guidance of how to do it. And I can't remember now, it's so many years ago. I met Shane Oley, who was second place. He was behind Steve Birkinshaw, who won the event in the Collette's course that no longer exists, the Ken Ledwood Extreme. I can't think what it's called now. It was a solo mountain marathon course. And so meeting Shane opened up a door for me to then plan his Great Lakes 3-day challenge in 2012, alongside the Dragon's Back happening that same year. And that then opened a concept of Shane coming out with this mad idea of doing something called Marmot Dark Mountains, which was a 2-day mountain marathon pushed into one night in the middle of winter, which I thought was a completely madcap idea, and there's no way we were going to manage to do it. And 2013, we put that together. And so I did this for about, 4 years, working for Ourea Events. I don't think it was known as Ourea Events then. I can't remember if there was a company name. It will have been. And that gave me the opportunity to run around the lakes, being paid to run around the lakes for the odd weekend here and there. And I learned loads of footpaths that I hadn't had any knowledge of at all. And and so then when I met Ian in 2014, that again gave me this open opportunity to plan a race. I spliced things together that I'd seen and thought, well, I love that trail, I love that, and this will make that. And before I knew it, things were just happening like that. So it was very organic.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people probably do stuff like that, and maybe not in the way that I was lucky to find myself in these situations, but they want to put a mountain race on, so they think of a distance, they think of the ascent profile, how hard do we want it to be, what type of terrain do we want it to go over, and then you start to develop it around from there.
How have you? I mean, you've been in the lakes and in the race industry for a while now.
Mm.
How do you think it's changed over the years, and how do you think it's going to adapt going forward with yeah.
God, that's a big question.
It is a big one, isn't it? Yeah, sorry. I mean, it's probably more, I mean, just in terms of, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's going through a lot of changes at the moment.
Yeah,
What
we
do you
are.
think?
I've seen huge changes from as being in the mountain marathon scene, which was very self-reliant, where you would turn up, you wouldn't know where you were going to run apart from you where the start was. You'd carry your kit and your sleeping bag and tent in a rucksack on your back with your partner. You ran in pairs, and you would go off with a map and compass, do a course that you didn't know where, what the route was. You'd have to navigate it, sleep overnight, and come back. And that was how it started for me, and that was very much self-reliance. And then we started to get events like the Lakeland 100, I think really is one of the first that I can note. And also Graham Patton's Lakeland Trails that now is owned by, I can't remember the guy's name anymore, but that's bad of me. But, I remember that concept coming out and Graham coming back from Europe saying, there's this skyrunning stuff. I want to create this razzmatazz type feel to the races and sort of move away from our UK fell running a bit and create something that feels, more inclusive, I think is probably the right word, but the word inclusive wasn't used then. It was more, he said razzmatazz, and we had Mark Laithwaite with his Lakeland 100, and they were still quite self-reliant races. And then as the scene has progressed, it seems like, not that we're kid-gloving people, but people want to be more looked after and more directed into what maybe they'd like to do and where they'd like to go. And I think that's natural in any scene that you see building, whether it's, God, I can't think of examples, but it's. I've definitely seen quite a big change in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And there are still those self-type reliant events going on. Mark Cockbain and his events, they were always wild and madcap, and forwards along a tunnel for 24 hours, or I don't know, running up a hill for 24 hours, up and down and up and down. And so, and then there's a fully supported events like oh god, my dog keeps.
Oh, hello.
Fully supported races, multi-stage races. There's a whole host of things that have come out. I think it's probably as how long's a piece of string. It is really a very difficult question to answer. And where do I see it going? I think we're rolling around in cycles. I think it's very much like fashion. One decade people are wearing flares. The next decade they're wearing main pipes, but it comes back round again.
Yeah.
I think we'll see navigation bring its head back again. I think that we'll see some mountain marathons hopefully come back on the scene. I don't think we'll see anything disappear. I don't think once something's here, I think it's sort of here to stay. I love the UTMB concept. I know that UTMB some people don't like it, but it seems to suit a hell of a lot of people. Things get longer and harder, aren't they? Where does that finish? That's a question I've got. I didn't think we'd be seeing 200-mile races and 200+ mile races in single single pushes.
I know. It's I think it's in some ways we're still pushing those boundaries, aren't we? We're still exploring what runners can do, which is exciting in itself.
Yeah, really exciting. But then again, on the flip side, I remember reading a book. I can't think what the name of it is, but it's about Arthur Newton and Peter Gabuzzi, who were ultra runners in the 1930s. I really can't remember the name of the book. And Arthur Newton held the record for the 30, 50, 60 mile runs from London down to Brighton, London to somewhere else, and so on. It was around the time that Comrades was developed in South Africa. So this, like the history of long distance movement on feet, is time immemorial, isn't it? You go back to what Greek times and Philophanes, is it? So these things have always been going on. Human endurance is always happening, but I think we're in really exciting times of the young coming through. They're developing their knowledge of training and the ability to run long distances at a younger age. That when I was in my 30s, I'm 52 now, but I was in my 30s, all my dad's mates laughed at me saying, "You can't do a Bob Graham in your 30s. That you'll kill yourself." Now we've got people doing Bob Graham's in their 20s. Some of them are
Yeah,
pushing.
yeah.
The record keeps falling. Billy held it for so long. He blew everybody's minds for 30, 40 years. And
Yeah.
now it's down at under 12 hours. It'll fall again soon, I think. I
Yeah.
just had this conversation with somebody the other day, so
Really?
where are
Yeah.
the limits? Who knows?
Is it still Jack?
Yeah, I think so. It's still Jack Hill.
Yeah.
I think, unless
Yeah.
it's just happened recently. But Arthur Hill just did the winter round in.
That's right. The winter ones have been dropping, haven't they? Yeah.
But that summer one will go again. It will go. It's going to take somebody like, oh God, I'm sure Finley Grant, somebody like that is going to come in, who's young, fell runner. He's on the Scarpa team. He's doing the European Sky Races. I haven't seen him so active in the UK scene on the Sky Races, but those type of guys.
Yeah.
And I can't think of the girls who operate in Eve. Eve and I should know the names because they're in the same sort of running team as me. But they are they're going to be doing this stuff and taking records.
Yes, I think again, they need to be technical runners, don't they? I mean, I know there was rumours of Tom Evans having a go, but I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't know what his sort of technical ability is like.
I think Tom's got a really good chance, given the right day. Yeah, totally. Yeah, he was bold, like sticking it out there, saying, "I'm going to go and take the record." but then, he came to Scafell Sky Race in 2018. Yeah, I think 2018. No, 2021. Sorry, 2021. He came and he said, "I'm just going to go all out and blow up if I do." And he set a record that year that then allowed. We had the middle distance qualifier for the World Mountain Running Championships at Scafell last year, and that put about 10 really good guys on the start line and about 5 really good girls on the start line, and they all pushed the boundaries of it. The ladies' record fell, and I forget who to now. I should know these things again. Could have been Naomi Lang, and the guys' record fell for the first 5 runners who went across it, so they beat Tom's time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, now had Tom been there that day, I'm pretty sure that they would have pushed hard again. So it's about everybody pushing each other. And that's what we're seeing at the moment. There's a lot of gifted people come in who are training hard and their minds are in the right place. And I think that's...
As you say, the fields are getting younger, so that's helping the records fall, isn't it?
Because they're training well, and they're training. And the UK fell running scene has been brilliant for the youth of bringing people in, bringing the young into the fell running clubs and training them correctly, not overtraining them. That now becoming, seeding through. The Olympics have been doing some great things with youth stuff. Mike Jones now is doing some good stuff with our skyrunning scene, with the youth sort of scene, which I'd started off by being I took over from being Corliss, who was the director of the UK skyrunning scene. I did it for a year. I didn't have the time in my calendar at that time 4 years ago to be dealing with it. Handed it over to Mike, and we got a program to try and bring the youth in as well and train people up in that way. So, that's where things are going to change, definitely. And I think you see that across sport, across the board, don't you?
Yeah. Do you think today's climate, obviously times are hard, cost of living, etc. Do you think people are looking for more value when they enter a race? I'm seeing more sort of weekends being made of it, stands and stalls. When you look abroad, again, they're very good at bringing in local produce and people selling local cheeses and wines and what have you. Do you think that's something we should be looking at more, or do you think that's what people are looking for?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. It's trying to create. I mean, the European scene is quite different to the UK scene. So we are an entrepreneur. How I see it is we are an entrepreneurial country where we try and set up lots of different things. People come out with ideas. We're not afraid to try and start a business and then it fails. In Europe, it's very much more that they are corporate. And I don't mean a corporatization. I'm not sort of going down any political sides. They will work for a company, and in the way that a race happens, it's the principality who put the money into the race. So it's the area, the local area. But you can do it in the lakes because the lakes has races every single weekend, and so it makes it difficult, for that to exist. I've tried to get the local cheese companies and the local meat companies in the lakes to come along and be at the races, but it's down to how much does that cost them? What are the staffing issues for them? So on, are they going to make money? Whereas the municipality, the local, he's going to come and sift in and out. The local, the local council will put money in to help that happen in the European areas because they've been pushing the Savoy cheese and the Savoy areas. The national park is starting to do some of this, but it's difficult. So
yes, I think interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I think people do want to see more and expect more, and there's pressure on race directors for that to happen and race organisations, and at the same time, there's pressure on everybody. Like the cost of living is going up constantly. Supermarket prices are off the wall. I hear people moan about some race prices, and I go in the supermarket and my shopping bag costs more and more all the time. I'd much rather spend money in a race and a small local organisation than I would with Tesco's or Sainsbury's. And I'd much rather moan about Tesco's and Sainsbury's and just see, try and help everybody else out. But I totally get it because we're all being squeezed, aren't we? It's very difficult.
No, it is. It is. So you've mentioned working with Ourea and Shane.
Yes.
Would you like to share your thoughts on this week's obviously devastating news for so many people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I don't politically want to say anything about it.
So no.
I mean, I'm totally devastated. If I put it on a level of where I've come from with this stuff, I did start out. So I just want to let my dog out because I think that's what he wants. I did start out. I'm here. I did start out, with the Ourea Events, and that's what all happened for me. And I was very lucky to find myself in that position, and I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed working with the Ourea Events and Shane. I learned most of what I'm doing from that organisation and from working underneath Shane, I guess is the best way to say it. And he's built some of the best races in the country in some ways, but he's not the only guy to have done it. There are some amazing people out there who have created this scene that we're all involved with. And I think it's a great loss for the UK mountain running scene to see Ourea Events, end up in this financial position that's caused the issues. And I'm feeling for everybody, whether it's the people who started the company, the people who have worked hard in the company to create, because it's not just Shane. Shane had some concepts and some ideas, and they definitely were madcap. Putting on the Dragon's back again by himself. He did all that organisation from 2010 through to 2012 to bring the Dragons back. And I don't think anybody else could have really done that. I don't think anybody else had the vision to do that. But then we've got people like James Elson, who's been working his arse off down in Centurion Running, creating an amazing scene down south. These people are sort of, I guess, kingpins of a trade that it's been amazing to be involved with, and I think it'll be sorely missed. The events that have been put on, and I guess that the people who have invested in it and trusted the organisation, that's going to be really hard cheese for them. Hopefully people get money back, but when things go into administration, things just seem to go wrong. Banks will take over, and I don't want to comment that somebody's done right or wrong. I just think that...
Oh, no. I mean, nobody knows, do they?
No, it's great what we've seen, and it's great to have been involved in it. I feel very blessed to have been part of all these things, feel very blessed to have been able to run the Dragons back in 2012. That was campaigning for me, helping on the GL3D. And then to have watched its changes and involvement and how people have managed to do these things. There's been some great events, but for me it was really sad to see the mountain marathon scene go. So the Low Alpine Mountain Marathon that was run behind the scenes by Martin Stone, who some of the old school runners will know about, but Martin has been the kingpin behind SI Entries, where a lot of us sell our entry places through. Martin was the winner of the original Dragon's Back, along with Helen Diamantes, who's her daughters. I was trying to give the name to Helen Whitaker now, the name to, who were pushing the boundaries of the female running as well in the fell running world. So it was sad to see all that sort of start to dissipate, and GL3D has gone now, and all these events, but things will come round in circles. Hopefully somebody recovers some of these things, and if they don't, it gives the opportunity for somebody else to come up with an amazing concept. I think that's probably the best I can say.
I feel that COVID did a lot of damage with on both sides. For race directors and for runners, both sides lost out a huge amount of money. And it was either one or the other. Obviously we know runners who lost all their money. I also know event directors who, painstakingly paid back money out of their own pocket to runners. And it was obviously it was again, it doesn't matter what the circumstance was. It was there, and it was painful. But I do wonder if that scenario is what's caused runners to delay entering events, which is causing race directors issues, because they're not seeing the sort of the bulk of entries are coming in the sort of last month, few weeks before the events, whereas previously people were much happier planning their year, quite far ahead. And then that's had the knock-on effects for race directors. And I think something like Ourea, this happening, especially 2 weeks out from Northern Traverse, is going to really knock that confidence again.
Yeah, I think so, and that definitely is a fear that I've been having in the last few days of sort of disseminating this and thinking about it. And yeah, it is very awkward. Like 2020 nearly took the rug straight from underneath my business. Mountain Run and Electric Sky Trails were lucky to survive. If it wasn't for the kindness of the runners who had booked onto our races, we wouldn't still be here. So unlike some of the larger races who rolled entries over, I knew we couldn't do that. It wasn't possible.
Yeah.
And we're living in this world where we're taking money in advance, we're not the only industry that does that. I had to think about this before. Holiday industry does it. If you're booking a train or you're doing these things, they're all taking money in advance, and we're trusting that organisation will still be there for the thing that we want to go and do. So that's just one of those things. And I think that it has become very difficult since 2020. We've seen a delay in people entering. That makes it quite nail biting, and it's made it difficult to reorganise the business in order to make sure that we could still financially operate. And then costs have gone up left, right and centre everywhere. So everybody has experienced this, whether it's the booking of a Portaloo, or it's being involved in entering a race, or like I said before, going to the supermarket and buying some food in the supermarket. Costs have just been going up and up and up. And as race organisations, you definitely have to put your prices up to try and cover those costs. Nothing you can do about that. And hope that people can trust what you're doing. I think it's creating a feel around you. Yeah. And I don't think that we will see this stop. I think that people will, I hope, but I don't think that people won't still keep on booking races. It's something that it helps all of us to enjoy ourselves. It's part of it's, would we buy a pint before going to a pub? Probably not. But will we buy a race place before going to a race? Yeah, that's generally. However, it did start out fell running. You didn't buy in advance. Turn up on the day. People did it for fun. It wasn't a money making machine. People weren't making a living out of it. So
no, but then they were very short. I mean, you only paid £2, £5, and you turned up and you ran. Whereas the events that you put on, or Ourea, or Centurion. They require, far more preparation and planning.
They do, yeah, and that's the thing, is how much safety do we need to put into the mountains in order to make everybody feel happy, and also make us as race directors feel that we're doing the right thing, and that we're not ticking boxes. That's totally the wrong thing for me to say. That we're making sure that we're giving the right support to runners in order to go across the mountains. That if something goes wrong, we have the capability to get in there alongside the mountain rescue teams and help. And I think that people don't quite consider stuff like that. My race safety team last year. Both Scafell and Helvellyn attended mountain rescue situations that were not to do with our races, but to do with other fell users. We looked after those mountain rescue situations. We dealt with the people who were involved to start with, and then the mountain rescue came in and took over. So in some senses, the race organisations, I know that Ourea Events will have done it. I know that Mike Jones's races will have done it. So Apex Running will have done it, where we've been a sort of a first catch for mountain rescue.
You've been in that, yeah. And you're giving back to the community in a way by doing
exactly.
that, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
by
but to do
being
these
there.
things, then we
Mm,
have to book people in advance. I used to be able to book people 2 months in advance for my safety operations. Now I have to book them 6 months, 9 months in advance to make sure that I've got the right team in place.
mm,
And we all have to know what we're doing as well. So yeah, each year it gets slightly easier because we have a slick team, but at the same time we have to organise that. And it's not just the
yeah.
safety; it's the registrations and so on and so on. And there are more races, so volunteers
Yeah.
are getting harder to find. Thankfully,
Yeah.
there is a good flux of people coming into the race scene. And talking of volunteers, volunteers are the backbone of all races.
Yeah.
Without those volunteers, whether it's a fell race or whether it's a multi-day race, they wouldn't happen without the volunteers. They would not be financially viable. If we give
No.
it a cost of, I don't know, £100 a race with volunteers, if you remove the volunteers and put paid staff in, you're now going to look at £800 a race. It instantly would change it that much. So we are
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
lucky to have this brilliant community around us who want to be involved. And for me, I started my race organisation days by volunteering for Mark Laithwaite on his Lakes 100. Did a couple of
Mm,
checkpoints, used to absolutely love it. I actually got more
yeah.
of a buzz out of doing that than I did out of running. So it was like, oh God, this is a bit dangerous. I could stop running now and just become a serial marshal.
Or for
But
cake.
yeah, exactly. But I just loved doing it. It was great, and you got that
Yeah.
buzz from the runners coming through at the same time as being involved, and then you
Mm,
felt really special.
mm.
So
I felt
it's
that
very
way
much
about being on the spine safety.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah,
that sort of teamwork again.
exactly.
Zero FOMO watching the runners going through wet,
Yeah, yeah,
miserable, cold. It's like, yeah, yeah, well done, guys.
yeah, 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 exactly.
um, but yeah, I think that's yeah, it's a shame. I wish there was a way that somehow we could alleviate all of this. You kind of we need some form of safety net for everyone, don't we?
Mm.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
but it happens, doesn't it? We could have all booked a holiday with, I don't know, X company going over to
mm,
wherever, and it could just fold. And it's just a
yeah,
nature of business. And I think that
yeah,
how we stop that happening sometimes, I don't know. I don't,
mm,
it is one of those things. Uh, Very unfortunate, and we just hope that everybody is all
yeah.
right. Basically, at the end of the day,
Yes, yes,
there's a
absolutely.
lot worse things happening in the world, dare I say it, and I hope that people don't start throwing things at the screen. But there is a lot worse
Yes,
things happening in the world than our first world problems in the
but
UK.
it's yeah,
Dare I
no,
say it?
that's very true. That is very true. But on the flip side, when you've been training for something so big as well,
Mm,
it's very hard to have that focus suddenly removed. I mean,
it
it's a bit
is.
like people suffering from post race blues anyway, because that
Oh yeah,
focus is now gone.
yeah.
It's almost you haven't even got the tiredness to help you get over it.
No, 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 no. It's
um,
hard. It's hard. But again, I've read some people's posts who have been focusing on the fact that, yeah, so they're not going to get to do the race in a couple of weeks' time, but at least they got to train throughout the winter, and it's pushed them to do these things. And
and
so,
there's so many more events out there.
of course there is.
Yes,
Of course there
yeah,
is. And yeah,
yeah,
people don't forget, I know people have lost money. Hopefully people manage to take insurance out on some of the things, so they haven't lost as much.
hmm
Hopefully the credit cards and debit cards and things cover that cost for them.
they might do. Yeah,
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 but at the same time, there are things that they can go and do out there, and they could group together as friends
mm
and go and do it
mm.
themselves.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what a lot of people used to do before there were so many races. And I don't want to see people not coming on the races because it's part of my living. But at the same time, if that were
yeah,
the end of
yeah.
it, and people decided, well, we don't want to do races anymore, we're going to just go and have adventures. That's great. It's
Well, certainly when it comes to a multi-day event,
much
it's
easier
it's
to do.
it's it yeah, yeah, yeah. I've got a friend, Megan, who was devastated by it, but she's now going off to do, I can't remember what it is, but yeah, a multi-day event with a friend. Not an event, but just a challenge. She said, right,
Yeah,
let's just go and
yeah,
do this, and that's almost, yeah. You've got to create a silver lining, haven't you?
definitely,
However frustrating. Um,
definitely, yeah. It's just how it goes, isn't it? Unfortunately.
it is. It
Yeah.
is.
The world of
And
finance and business.
well, we're not really all that sort of way inclined, are we?
No,
That's the trouble. We just want to be outdoors.
I'd be rather there behind me. Yeah,
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
that's
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah, everything's all right out there.
that is lovely.
Then
Is
we
that you in
come
the
back to
picture?
the reality. No, no, that's a guy called Andrew Heaney, who does a great thing actually. Basil, his name is, or his nickname. He won't mind me calling him
I
Basil.
was going to say, I know the
Andrew,
name.
yeah, you will do. Andrew runs or got started up a company alongside Damien, and I can't think of the other people involved, which is called Into Ultra, where they help support people who
That's
are
it.
less privileged to get
Yes.
into ultra running because it can be an expensive thing to do.
Yes.
And they
Yeah.
ask people like myself and other organisations, and I know a lot of the organisations I've mentioned will give out free
Mm.
race places
Mm.
around Into Ultra. So they're trying to support people with either physical or mental health issues or financial issues as well to try and help
Okay.
support people into stuff.
Oh, so you do that as well, do you? You work
Yeah,
with
we try
them.
and help. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
That's nice.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, that's great. Yes. So if anyone's listening, yeah, it's a great. In fact, I bumped into a lady at Tour de Helvellyn. Um,
Yeah.
yes, we were going to do something about that. Share that. So yeah, anyone who's interested into ultra, yeah, that's a great organisation and a really lovely initiative.
Yeah.
I think they offer kit as well for people with shoes
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
kit, second
They'll try
hand
and help
kit.
where they can. You have to
Mm,
apply to them. I don't know what their
mm,
process is. I'm not involved in that side of it. I'm involved in the sort of the back end side of will we help with a course or will we help with
mm,
the race place or so on. So yeah, we do what we
yeah.
can. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. Cool.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you so much, Charlie.
That's right. You're welcome.
Um,
Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on to talk. It's really interesting to hear your views on everything, and on the landscape. Let's yeah, wish you all the best on your events as well.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Brilliant. Good talking to you, Kate.
Thank you, Charlie.